Alright, inmendham video. Yeah, probably shouldn't make this video because it's one of these subjects that, there's no there's no win in having the conversation because people are kind of either or. They either are a Trumpy or not a Trumpy. They're either going to rationalize something or not rationalize it because it's connected to something else that they have to have as true, and so they'll excuse the behavior, that kind of thing, or whatever. It's not an objective conversation in any way. It's always connected to some sort of personal interest, a personal prejudice or bias. So it's this basic argument about the problem between men and women, and the problem being that men are mostly lecherous in terms of how their brain works. They react to people based on, is it fuckable? It's just sort of like that. That's just the way they react, where, women aren't doing that as much. And what goes on in terms of a thought process, they might actually be on a subject where the man is just not paying any attention. He's just, daydreaming and wishful thinking and doing all that kind of stuff. And that in our interactions, there's some sort of inappropriateness that ends up being possible because of these conflicting default conditions. Like, even if you're a smart man, you have a dumb penis. It's just the way it works. And, if it's still alive, your penis, it tends to have its will appreciated. It doesn't just sit silently, on purpose. Well, anyway, so this is like a problem that's existed forever, and that we've had social institutions that sort of like religion and stuff that was able to keep people under some control in terms of the behavior. But it was always a problem that, if men had power or they were in a position of power, they would abuse it. They'd say, I get to screw your wife, because I'm a nobleman. That's the new rules. Yeah, all the young married women, I get to fuck them first. Some kind of silly shit like that they'll come up with if they have the power to exercise their wishful thinking. And that's why, it's not that power corrupts, it's that they already have the corruption inside of them. And, they have interest and wills that have always something to do with what's in it for me, not so much, who cares about them. And so that's sort of the bigger subject, is the fact that it's such a disrespect to women, to try to steal it or do, this cheap kind of interactions people have, where men, what they're really demonstrating isn't so much, contempt for asking nicely, can I fuck you? Or, paying for the roses or the candy or something, you know, buying something charming to be charming with, instead of just pretending I don't need to be charming. That's first an insult, but this is the idea that, yes, okay, in every context, a woman becomes a non-professional. She just becomes some sort of hoe for the hoeing. And so anyway, but yes, and then it gets overdone where, the extremists take that to some sort of like, all trespasses are rape, and, that's just idiotic. So it's, like I said, it's not a subject anybody can win on. But anyway, Karina's sort of gotten herself into this drama. Like I say, she's gotten herself into it. Well, she got herself into it by wearing a dress, let's say, or combing her hair, or, making herself presentable, attractive. You're sort of asking for it, right? According to Thunderfoot's brilliant theory, that's the first crime women commit, is to make themselves desirable. They ask for it. No way of getting around that. And of course, rational people say, no, that's not really what's going on here. And, but we do play different roles. Women can't do what Einstein did, right? A woman can't just walk around and just let shit hang out and be a mess and a complete pig and say, ain't I cool? Because it just ain't going to work, because we have to play these certain kind of roles, and the roles permit men to be pigs and not to be very charming. And because they have status, they're riding on a big horse and they have lots of shiny armor. They don't have to be, they don't have to work at it. Where women haven't got too much to work with, except, can I hook you with my cuteness or charmingness or some other kind of bullshit? And I'm not defending any of that stuff being the circumstance we're living in. I'm just defending it as the idea that that's the world. I mean, that's the physical reality we came from, is a very unfair place. And for the smart people who really want to have a more fair world where women can actually be professionals at something, be very good at something, and be admired for how good they are at something without always being trivialized and turned back into just a little bag of, fuckable meat. And anyway, so there's this whole thing of Lawrence Krauss has committed some of these acts of chauvinism or a male. He's been male. He's been a kind of a desperate male, you could almost argue, right? Because he's sort of in the position where you think, like most celebrities, he could basically just let the groupies in. I mean, why does he have to go out and get the non-groupies? He's got enough groupies to work with. He's got enough groupies to molest. Why does he have to go trespass into territory where he's not sure that's what they are? That they're not automatically, in awe. And why is he trespassing there? So there's lots of stuff people could be guilty of as professors, sleeping with their students and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of tacky. Lots of stuff you could do in your personal life as a professional, and somebody could say, gee, they having some kind of pleasure thing, like you could torture stuff, or you could eat dogs or something. Somebody could be a CEO of a company, and you find out, well, he eats puppies. Well, the two things really shouldn't have anything to do with each other, necessarily. And I guess it depends on how bad the thing is they're doing, right? So being a kind of a tacky groper, or something, I don't know how to, I mean, apparently Krauss likes to touch women, in in a way that isn't conveying his deep respect for their intellect. He doesn't touch their brain and go, can I get some of your brain? Can I rub some onto my hands? No, he's not doing that. He's not like saying, I'm impressed with your intelligence or something like that. He's doing the tacky, physical, you're a hot chick kind of thing. And I'm just going to do let's do some, stuff I would do with hot chicks if I was allowed to kind of thing or something. I'm just saying obviously it's that tacky. And so, this comes down to what kind of guy you are, I guess, because there's guys who want to provoke a response in women in the sense that they want the challenge of pushing the right buttons. And so they're going to be more aggressive because they like figuring out if they can press the button on this. Hey, can I get this chick to go? So they start pressing buttons and see if they can make something happen. And then there's other guys like myself, I would say, who, I don't want to have to press nothing. I don't want to have to do, I want to be like Einstein. I just want to sit back and be me completely and have you somehow find that charming. That's how much, I don't want to do no effort at all. I want to put flowers in front of me. I don't want to do candy. I don't want to do any kind of extra at all. And somehow I still want to, somehow people look at me and have the perception that I'd be worth knowing. Or they'd want it, So these are different perspectives, and so obviously, from my perspective, it's really tacky, to start invading a person's physical space. That's just you don't do that shit. And I guess it's partly because maybe as a kid I had a few, as a young adult even, I had a lot of older women kind of, and they would get a little pushy, and aggressive, and it's uncomfortable, to have somebody you're not really, I mean, yeah, I could fuck you, but I mean, I don't really think I could work out this whole relationship thing, and it could mean anything, and so it didn't have any, to me, value in something in pursuing. It just ends up looking like it'd be a terribly complicated mess being made. And yeah, it's sort of uncomfortable to be in that position where, you're being, um, yeah, where it's just too aggressive. And I would certainly, the physical thing is where it starts to get aggressive, And so anyway, she's part of this Lawrence Krauss thing where he, inappropriately, he whatever the word for it is, right? Inappropriate, where apparently he this is, his way of detecting whether somebody's an appropriate groupie, I guess, is to just get a little bit assertive right there, and yeah, I don't know how to put it. I mean, the test is a little too aggressive. He doesn't have a more subtle test, which would be some way of like seeing if there's glimmer in her eye or something, if she's totally starstruck and totally impressed. Maybe test a woman based on a couple of intelligent questions you might ask and see if she can actually engage, and if she can, then that means she's not interested, right? But she's not totally made ignorant by, ooh, I'm in the presence of, or something like that. I don't know, you think you'd come up with a better test than a physical test. But anyway, but it's hardly like, this isn't in the same, I don't know, like put in the same category as these other males, like the Donald Trump grab him by the pussy kind of stuff, which seems so much more overtly a power play. One intended to take advantage of huge disparities in social position and all of that stuff. And so anyway, this is all sort of personal because I sort of know Karina a little, and oh my God, it's Chris, and it's nice seeing her again. It's like going back in the Wayback Machine to like 1965 internet. Was your camera still kind of shitty? And well, anyway, it's just kind of nice. Where eventually I just want to get to the point that this is it's all part of our evolution. It's all part of the circumstance we're stuck with and being civilized. And right, so just like civilized humans can learn something like animals suffer, it's not good to torture them and eat them and blah blah blah, they can learn how to not be cruel and brutal, because it's lions and tigers can't figure all that stuff out. They don't know that they're causing something harm when they rip its skin off. It just doesn't, takes a little too much imagination that they just don't have, because they haven't been educated. And it took you time to learn all this stuff. Those seem like really simple things, but it actually does take some time to actually learn that kind of stuff, because when you're a kid, sure, in the beginning you're really selfish, and you probably could, to get what you wanted, you kill 1 million Jews, who cares? Or do this, who cares? It wouldn't be something that you could appreciate as meaning something, because you can't do all the little math that's involved in figuring out how that they're just as valuable as you are, and their experiences are just as real as yours, and all that kind of crap. But anyway, that's a side subject a little bit, sort of. So yeah, there's nothing in the basic environment that's going to make you capable of empathizing with a woman's position, either an unattractive woman's position or an attractive woman's position, because those are two different circumstances in life, and they both get molested in a sense by either male indifference or male aggression. And it's not the way things should be. We should be able to say to ourselves, well, no, ideally we don't want that in a civilization. We want women to use their brains just like men use their brains in logical ways that build bridges and make the world a better place and all that kind of crap. And we don't really want to do anything called male thinking or female thinking. We want to, just do thinking, good or bad. So, I mean, so that's part of the disappointment of this, is that these icons of whatever, these celebrities for the wrong reason. I mean, I don't know why they exactly make science celebrities into the atheist celebrities, but yes, there's that connection, because apparently you need to be a scientist to figure out there's no God, which seems ridiculous. I don't think you really do at all. I mean, I know the three bears didn't really exist, and I didn't need to go to science school to figure that out. Um, so I mean, religion's pretty easily dismissed without any big science to replace it. Even without the theory of evolution, the God theory is still ridiculous. So it just is. But anyway, this is the role they play. So, the disappointing part is that Karina's a really good talker, really good on the subject of these skeptical thinking and being an atheist, and to some extent taking responsibility for what that means and all that kind of crap. But she's a real player in terms of the bringing intelligence to the conversation and to the arguments being made. And the real disappointing part is that these icons don't even appreciate that, and all they see is hot chick. And so they're so disinterested in the subject that they turn everybody into, oh, you're just my fans, and so I think they show up to these events for that purpose only, not really to do anything for the cause, but just to be fed by their fans, and to be served by the fans. And really, if they took the cause seriously, then in a sense, I think it's just logical that they'd have more appreciation for women like Karina, who are really strong voices, not female voices, just voices, period, in terms of being capable of making arguments. It's like the Ann Coulter thing. I know some people say she's ugly and all this, it's a matter of taste, but yeah, I think she's really, I think she's hot. Okay, in a lot of ways, she's got that whole confidence thing, and she's lean and mean and fighting machine kind of thing, and yeah, she's full of shit. She's an idiot in a lot of respects, but she's an idiot in a really professional way. She's really good at it. She's kind of male in her, and I don't want to. I mean, that's giving men credit. I'm just saying she has that fighter's kind of way about her. She's not a man or a woman. She's just a fighter, and that's what should be being respected. And still, we're still stuck though in this old biology, role playing. These differences between men and women, and what men and women want, and what men and women need, and all of that kind of crap. Women aren't so big on the competition thing, men are, blah, blah, lots of things that are differences between men and women. And they're always getting in the way a little bit in terms of interacting. So yeah, the rational thing for Krauss to do is just admit, you know what, I get way too casual sometimes, and I let the wrong parts of my body do my thinking. And yeah, that is bullshit. And even if my wife is in on it, she's a little aggressive, got a little lesbian in her or something. Just fess up and say, yeah, okay. That's unprofessional. When I'm at a professional event, I should behave like a professional. But that's the other problem. See, they have these events that are supposed to be about a subject or doing something, these conferences, and they mix in the conference a bunch of hanging out at the bar. A bunch of like professional unprofessionalism, and it's like, why do that? Why mix social with business? Because that just can get you nowhere good. So that's a big failure of these events, is that they have to make them attractive to finance them, I guess. They have to have people pay for the ticket, and they're not going to pay for the ticket to just do the professional thing. Apparently they need the, let's rub each other's leg crap thrown in. And you sort of see that as being part of the game that's going to be played. And obviously a woman who, doesn't have her man standing beside her is going to be a bit of a target. If there's no obvious, she's owned by somebody or she's somebody's property or all that kind of crap, then yes, these people are going to think she's a worthy target. Maybe I can acquire that kind of thing. And so they'll start bargaining. in whatever way they think is rational bargaining, you know. And that's sort of a subjective thing conditioned into different males. Some men are aggressive, some are non-aggressive, which is the way it is. So anyway, I like it that way, kind of thing. All right, so all of this is just a preface to me making an evolution argument, where I'm just going to say it's I think people ought to just have to appreciate exactly that that's what we're always stuck with, is what evolution has sort of built into our chemistry, and it's there to be overcome. So as in the African Queen, whatever her name is, Audrey Hepburn, whatever, says, nature is there to be, for us to overcome, or something like that. I should remember the exact quote if I want to quote it, but anyway, nature is there to be overcome, or something like that. And that's the truth of it. Our nature is ignorant. It's not civilized. It's crude. Those mechanisms are crude. The selfishness is crude. It's built into us. This me-ness, what's in it for me? All of that stuff is not high-minded, intelligent thinking. It's very, very visceral, and I feel it. Okay, I get an itch, or I get it happens to me. It doesn't happen to you. It happens to me, and we're controlled by those itches, and to some extent. But we can all know that it's wrong to let that own you. So yes, you have to accept some influences by hunger and horny, but you don't have to be controlled by them. And that's where we should be able to agree that there's lines, and we can really kind of understand where the lines are, and that you can't be a gorilla in the china shop, and you have to be a gorilla in the banana shop, or whatever. You can think of your own appropriate analogy, but you can sort of understand that that's what being civilized is. Civilized is, when you're in a place where you can't jump up and down because the floor will rat, all the stuff will fall over. There's places where you have to be careful, and then there's places where you don't have to worry about it. And we can know all that stuff. So, the evolutionary story that I always like to tell, because I invented it, is the story of the penis, you see, and the fact that it had to evolve, right? So if you start thinking about what would cause this to happen, this machine, this mechanism being invented, and you can think about fish, because that's where we were fish, fins, all that kind of stuff. And they traditionally do this spawning thing where, the female dumps the eggs, and then the male comes by at some time after and starts fertilizing. And the males have a certain competition to be the one who does it, who gets there first, so to speak. And that can get more complicated, where the female gets to choose, and she chooses someone to be the one. Well, there's still an incentive for the other males to find some way to cheat her decision, to somehow not allow her to choose. All right, the loser males, the peacocks with the lousy feathers, still sort of have an incentive genetically to cheat. And so that's sort of what I would argue invented the penis as the great cheater, is that it was sort of invented to figure, because there was a certain fact that was a truth. So the fact was out there as a truth, which was you can get to the eggs quicker. You don't have to wait for them to be dumped on the ground. You could get to them before she dumps them, you see, and that way you win. And I would argue that's the nature of the male machine, is, the male, as we know, male having not just the male chromosome, but having the male structure, the physical male structure, is that's what it was kind of invented to be, is just something that cheats, something that gets to the female, gets to her eggs, okay, and it probably did it in some kind of nasty way, where once the eggs were ready to be fertilized, it wouldn't even matter if you killed the female to fertilize them, because the objective would be the same evolutionarily. You win, and that would be the only answer. And the female's fate would be irrelevant. And it's sort of like that anyway, like with salmon or something. They're all going to die afterwards anyway. So it doesn't really matter whether you rape and kill her or whether you just let her die of the 5 minutes later natural causes. And there's lots of ocean fish that still do this. They die so they can feed the young. So it's like there's lots of fish that spawn on the full moon on the highest tide, so that their corpses will be at the highest tide. And so when the eggs hatch, it'll be the highest tide will take the little ones back, and at the same time they'll take all the decomposed fish with them. And so this is how evolution works, is that there's a fact that this something will work, and it doesn't have anything to do with it being decent or right or fair or deserve. None of those rational words have anything to do with the fact that this will win. This will be the winning answer, and the winning answer won't have anything to do with obeying some sort of decency rules. And that basically our function is made of a ton of little circumstances like that where, yes, the cheaters won. The mechanism that could that found a workaround to an advantage, and then that advantage got rewarded because it did fertilize the eggs and it did create the next generation, and things that were capable of doing that won the fight in the long run. And so I mean, I'm just saying, so this is the mechanism we're stuck with, and it's not perfect. So we haven't evolved out of the swamp. We've only walked out of it, and we still got swamp fins, and we still have mechanisms that are still swamp-like organisms. We still have our stingers, so to speak. We still have these mechanisms that are really destructive and counterproductive to being civilized. And the power we have is the fact that we can know it. The very fact that we can know I have these unfair opinions, I have unfair sensibilities, I'm triggered in ways that have nothing to do with true merit, and that I have impulses and desires that are conducive to me becoming ignorant of other agendas besides what's in it for me, that I have biological mechanisms that tend to persuade me to be selfish and a shithead and to get away with it whenever possible, and that is something I have to fight against, not something to be embraced. So while I embrace the fact that males are males and females are females, and you can't just snap your fingers and make that go away like some idiots think, being male is just something you just snap your fingers and you're not male anymore. You can't do that. That's silly. It is something we can mostly make unnasty, and we can demonstrate a little bit of character and integrity. And these are words that Krauss used in his defense, like pretending I have great character and great integrity, and everybody who I've paid says so. All my paid employees say so. All the institutions that are dependent on my good name, they say so. So of course I have all this great character and integrity. I mean, all the people I've paid say so. All the people who have a huge interest in me having those things say so. But none of the people who don't have an interest, personal interest in saying you're a great guy, unfortunately, you don't have a testimony from them. And again, it's not really about being a great guy. It's just really about being a hypocrite, being a lousy kind of representator of some sort of ideology of believing that civilization should be made out of more than just silly role playing, either for a god or for nature. Reverence for nature is retarded. Reverence for a god is retarded. Your obligation is to do the best you can, and you can know that yes, I'm cheating. If I'm if in a professional environment, so to speak, I start playing with the woman's dress, you know you're cheating. Okay, you're cheating the woman, and you're cheating the purpose of the interaction, which is to be better atheists, not to be philanderers, or whatever the right word would be. Or, you're not supposed to be doing the what's in it for me part. You're supposed to be what's in it for the cause part. And yeah, so that's probably enough of a commentary. But there's no, like I said, this is a really difficult subject. There are lots of layers of, what exactly should be noticeable. When should we say, oh, that guy sucks, that's too much. That is a hard line to draw. But I think, yeah, clearly touching a woman below the waist and touching certain places above the waist, there's lots of dangerous ways to touch a woman. I think all men know they're dangerous. As soon as, like, accidentally, even hugging a woman, and sometimes you feel the bra strap or something, and no, I didn't. I wasn't doing anything. Nope. I mean, when you're trespassing, when you're making an incursion for no other purpose than to satisfy some personal agenda of how can I game this game? How can I play this woman? And when you're playing somebody versus interacting in some sort of more honest way, honest to the cause, not honest to your feelings. Like I said, the fact that we're male and we can't, I can't not notice an attractive woman. That's just true. I can't not notice. But I can understand that I have an obligation to try not to be too distracted. And too distracted where I can't even figure out that I don't have a right to go, hey, what's this new territory? Like pretend I'm blind and I need to braille my way into an interaction. Yeah, no, that's just cheating. Probably works for blind people though, they can probably, I wasn't, hey, no harm, no foul, I wasn't trying anything. They were trying something. Anyway, but like I said, it's difficult. It's difficult for so many reasons too, because it just starts bringing up the he said, she said thing, and then now there's a bunch of men who just say all women are liars, and then you have to wonder, well, why are they all liars? I mean, so you think they're just born that way. They're born hating men somehow, and they don't have to be wronged or trespassed in any way. They don't have to have their tail stepped on. Nothing. You don't have to do a damn thing to them. They're just nasty, crappy little monsters. They're just born miserable and have to lie about poor men. I mean, just logically, you got to understand that can't be the truth. I mean, women don't sit there and do this crap because they've gotten a fair deal. Come on. Silly. But anyway, so video of, limited utility in the big picture, because it is so, it's on such, there's so many fine lines, and they are fine. The big line is that we know the difference between respect and disrespect, and we know the difference between I'm trying to think of not wiping your feet when you walk into somebody's house and walking into their house with dog shit on your shoes or something. We know the difference between those things, or something like that. Some overt, it probably should be more about taking stuff. It's like a restaurant has a little stuff there, little chocolates you can take when you're leaving. And instead of taking one, you take 400. It's that kind of, that's just shoplifting. Yes, they let you do it, but it's still shoplifting. I mean, shit. So this probably is a good metaphor for this, is shoplifting, because there's certain things you're allowed to take, and it's not too big a crime. But when it's a crime, when when it's not right, and you shouldn't have done it. And Krauss should just fess up that sometimes his vision gets blurred, and he doesn't get the not right line right. So anyway, but that's it for that. I mean, it's just Karina video. Good excuse to make a, there's so little, so there's nothing to respond to. So I'm sure Karina, maybe she's supposed to make more videos. So we disagree on a few subjects. So maybe there'll be something, some kind of fun argument to have. We'll see. So anyway, it's good to see her anyway. Till next time and such. So forth and whatnot.